bit odd. But, hi, I'm Kimberly Overman. I am a longtime member of the old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. I moved to Seminole Heights in 1994 after moving from Davis Island to South Tampa. Have been an advocate for this community for a very, very long time. I now serve as the chair of the Board of County Commission for Hillsborough County, which is 1,000 square miles and now almost 6 million people. We have 200 people a day moving to Hillsborough County. So I'm working on some really big projects. Affordable housing, as the chair of affordable housing, I'm trying to develop an affordable housing strategy on a runaway market, given that rents are going up and we have limited inventory over the last few years. I do serve on the transportation boards. I serve on HART's board, which is why I have to leave before he starts talking. And but I actually am also running for re-election. I love this job, although it is a 24/7 job. We're doing good work at the county in the sense of readdressing DCF and our foster care system, readdressing our affordable housing as a priority. I've reorganized that board when it was just a department, and it's now a full board looking to develop policies that make sense. And I have had the opportunity and the pleasure of actually putting forward the Tenant Bill of Rights, as well as the eviction home stabilization program in order to help people find a place to live, which unfortunately we're in crisis mode there. So the good news is the board is doing a lot of good work, and I am proud to have an opportunity to participate in that. We still have a lot of challenges. The area is growing. We have a surtax, and I know Tyler's going to talk mostly about this, coming to you as voters in the fall, which is critically important that we pass in order to be able to guarantee opportunities to apply for federal funds for the infrastructure bill. Otherwise, we won't have those dollars and we won't get as far as we need to go. But that being said, I am running for re-election in November. There is a fundraiser tomorrow night in the neighborhood to help me get there at the Independent at 6 p.m. And there's a flyer on the table if you'd like to attend. Everyone's welcome, whether you contribute or not. It'll give another opportunity for me to say a lot more. And I don't want to take up your whole meeting. So thank you very much. And it's nice to be here. And I'm sorry I'm not here very much because they keep me pretty busy. So thank you.
So just as a reminder, we are entering the political season. Anticipate in our July meeting, certainly the October meeting when we do our elections, we're going to have a number of politicians coming out. We always give them opportunity to speak just for a couple minutes. We are apolitical as far as an association, so we'll help people get registered to vote. We'll talk about the importance of it, but we don't, of course, support any specific candidate. So any other community announcements? I believe, Susan, you had something you want me to just announce it? So there's a cleanup on Sly Avenue. If you like getting out there and helping make the community look a lot nicer. What day?
8:30 Saturday at the Sly Club.
Okay, great place. Jenny runs the Corner Club. We've been there many times for happy hours. We'll be back again. So if you can get out there and help Susan and the Northeast Neighborhood Watch Group, they're the ones that predominantly do the cleanup of Sly. That would be terrific. I've got the opportunity to introduce Fed Revolte and his partner, Brian Knipe. Hope I'm saying that correct, Brian. A number of us have problems with parking. And here's a couple of good pictures. So please don't spare these gentlemen. They did come. It is after hours. They are city employees. I'd like to point out the vehicle that's in front of the fire hydrant there. We all know that that's not legal. It's a continuous problem. Doreen, this is your street, Swanee. We all know where Swanee is. Predominantly, this is caused by the Sea House. And and we know the owner of the Sea House. You can see what happens, especially on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A fire truck is not going to be able to get through there. Another area is Giddon and Swanee. It just so happens Swanee is 1 block to the east of Florida Avenue. I misspelled Giddens, I think. So in any case, it's right over here. If you ever go over there, there's a lot of extra overflow from the apartment across the street. People have big 250 trucks. They can't get into the parking garage. They got to park somewhere. We understand that. The problem is there was a fire the other day. The fire truck couldn't literally get through the street due to the overflow. So we do need to talk to the owner of that building. Central in Hillsborough, where the Starbucks, that's been a continuous problem with ginger snips. They put up do not park signs there. And I know there are other spots throughout the neighborhood. So I'm going to turn it over to Fed. Fed is the expert. And then actually, why don't we do this first? Did I miss any hot spots in the neighborhood for parking or illegal parking? Okay, obviously we don't have the entire neighborhood here. We have a number of residents though that live on Swanee, in particular the C House, which is immediately to the west of where that white car is. So I'm going to turn it over to Fed and let you guys just have a quick dialogue. All right, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. So
Actually, the reason we're using this is because we are using a Zoom. And so if you don't talk here, it won't get picked up.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Brian, you want to come closer so that way we can share it?
It's a do-it. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Again, I'm on the parking side. Brian is on the transportation side. So safety related issues, traffic calming, all of that. That's more of his wheelhouse. So we didn't have any presentation today. Been communicating with we're not really familiar with all the issues that's going on in the neighborhood. So the first step today is to actually listen to the community as far as everything that's going on, possibly answer some questions today, and then hopefully come back to the community with some solutions as far as the different issues that's been going on. Car parking in front of the fire hydrant, that's just enforcement. We just need to send out enforcement into the neighborhood. But I want to say, once we start sending enforcement to neighborhoods, even some of the residents will start getting citations as well, as far as parking too close to the stop sign, blocking driveways. Just wanted to print that out, that once we start enforcing, we don't know who are the residents, we don't know who are the visitors that's going to the restaurant, so everybody gets citations if they're committing a parking violation.
We just need to know what's actually going on. I have not heard of anything. I have not heard of much, but like, I don't know if this is the capacity or if this is the event for that, but that's a good place to start.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say,
Hey, Dory, are you going to be able to pick this up, Tim? We got another microphone. Okay.
Good point.
Is that working? Yeah. So I just want to say, enforcement has already started. We have enforcement there. I live on Swanee. I live right between Paris and Idlewild on Swanee. I'm just a house away from the fire hydrant. So we have enforcement regularly. They come regularly and get tickets. Somebody gets a ticket for being in front of that fire hydrant several times a week. It doesn't stop anybody from parking there, ever.
It's the same person?
No.
That's
it's
the
different.
problem. Yeah.
Some people get tickets for blocking our driveways. The next day, somebody else blocks your driveway. People get tickets for parking on people's lawns. The next day, somebody else parks on your lawn. We've all, as residents, gotten tickets. My husband got a ticket for parking too close to his own driveway. So we understand that. We are all well acquainted with the fact that we're now getting tickets. And that's really been the only result of the enforcement, is that those of us who live there also get tickets, but it hasn't changed anything as far as the parking problem at all.
And if you park across the street from another car, doesn't care, they don't care who comes first, somebody's getting a ticket. If you live there, you don't have a place to park.
Yeah,
So
we have several people on our block. I'm on Swanee also. I'm a block down from Doreen, a number of us are. And we have several people on Swanee who do not have driveways. A lot. So they must park on the street.
Right.
And they said, like, Ryan back here might come home at 5:00 from work, park perfectly legally because there's no one across the street from him.
Mm-hmm.
But then a patron of one of the bars or restaurants comes and parks across the street from him.
So is this where all the parking's coming from?
And the enforcement has been giving both the resident who was there earlier legally and the patron a ticket. And when asked about that, the enforcement person has said, well, everybody gets a ticket. We can't figure out who came first.
Right.
Well, that'd be right.
So
It's not probably,
So we need a
it's not probably the real solution that the
Yeah.
neighborhood would enjoy, but yeah,
And it doesn't, like I said, they just keep coming.
because you have new people every time, right?
Every time.
Right.
And
So this is related to business then, yeah.
well, at my end of the block, it's mostly the C house. We have spoken to the owner.
The C
Several
house?
of us have spoken to the owner.
Okay.
They refuse to leave. They
Really?
are not-
What is the C house for a business?
It's a restaurant and bar,
Oh, okay. So a lot of turnover.
and they don't have adequate parking.
Right.
And they've made no arrangement for overflow parking, so people just park. There, a lot of the time on Sunday mornings and during the day on Sunday, the parking is clearly employees, not customers,
Mhm.
because they're not even open yet. And the street fills up with cars long before they ever open with their employees. We have, and this stretch of block, quite a few small children on Saturday and Sunday when they have brunch, lunch, the cars are in and out, fill up. People come out of the C house completely intoxicated. So it's a serious safety issue for the children on the block, not to mention the nuisance of people not being able to park and getting tickets for parking on their own street when they have nowhere else to go. And we have no sidewalk for some blocks.
Okay, so thank you, Doreen. And so the purpose of this meeting is not to solve the problem. We're not going to solve the problem. Part of the problem is the owner's not here. So what I would recommend is the residents, sorry for the glitches here, we're working on it. What I'm going to recommend is that we ask as a neighborhood association with the city department, because they're the gentlemen that would know what the code rules are. Are you allowed to put up a tow-away zone sign in your own yard? Are you not? What about those 5-minute signs? Most people know those are no longer enforceable, but people still use them. Putting cones in the street. I know there's a resident here who has to put cones at the end of her driveway. Otherwise, somebody parks and she can't even get into her own driveway just because it's looks a little different from a standard driveway. And then encourage the owner of both the C House as well as Harvest Bowl, as well as the other restaurants like the Front Porch, the new Flocal, and then there's going to be a fish restaurant going into the old bodega, as well as the bar there, to try to have a community meeting. Would you all be willing to attend on a meeting like that? Okay. I mean, the lady that is in charge of the C House is an attorney, and certainly we should be able to encourage her to come and participate in a community meeting.
One of the good things is you now have a city councilor for this part of your organization, and which is excellent. It doesn't hurt. A couple of weeks ago, I went to St. Petersburg event. I parked in the neighborhood, and all along in the neighborhood in St. Petersburg, which has a similar problem. They have a great business, but it's in the city, close to residential neighborhoods. So they had certain areas where they indicate that you had to have a permit to park in that area, and each of the residents would have a sticker. They are resident in that area. They had other areas in the community that you could only park there for 2 hours or that required enforcement, and they had cars went around and put little dots on the through 2 hours later, and if those same cars were there, they had a citation.
Right.
So it is manageable, but it's going to take some work for the city to come up with strategies for area. The city has made waiver available for businesses to be able to come to this area, but it waived the parking requirements for capacity.
Right. So again, we're not,
That several years ago, we were one of the businesses here.
right. But the problem is now we want the restaurants. Everybody enjoys, most of us enjoy going to the C House. I will admit I go there regularly, but it comes with a cost. There's also the option to have alternating parking. So you can only park on one side of the street. So again, the idea is not try to solve the problem here, but Josh, I'll let you make a comment. And then ma'am, I think you wanted to make a comment over here, but I do want to keep moving along. And again, if there's anything you gentlemen want to throw into the mix, certainly feel free to do that. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a few points. The enforcement side of things is definitely part of it. I know, for example, in Ybor City, there is the same sort of residential permit program where if you live north of Palm, you have to get a permit. If you live on 4th or South 4th, you have a residential permit, and there's enforcement those lines. So there is some precedence in the city for that. So hoping maybe in other historic neighborhoods like ours, we can have something similar, or potential to have something similar. But I also, recognize we live in an urban area, and so parking is going to be something that we're going to have to live with, and that's fine as long as it's done well and regulated. One other problem area I did want to point out: I live on Hamilton, east of Nebraska, north of Sly. It's not just restaurants. We have a lot of auto repair, auto shops that stage cars that are in the process of repair. Idlewild as well. So, and those areas even are signed as no parking, yet there's still parking on the sidewalk. It's a visibility triangle issue in some intersections.
So the cars that they would work on, they keep them off on.
Exactly.
Right.
They'll stage them on the curb.
That is a big difference.
Yeah.
But lucky for you, it's a more localized problem.
Right.
Because it's related to that one place.
Right. So, but still the enforcement
Easier
level.
problem is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. And the enforcement level, though, is something that I think as part of this is something that's going to have to be a serious part of your recommendations at the end. How do we beat that up? How do we make sure it's regulated? Because it is a serious issue, not just for my school.
I want to address that real quick. Bocce lives in my neighborhood. We for years battled, gone to the city council, we've been to and yet in the end of everything, we're still there and we're still doing it. So whatever it is we're doing, we need to do it a lot more. People need to say more and talk more.
Okay. And then as the good follow on to that, these gentlemen's boss is Vic Beatty. When we initially approached the mobility department, they are going to do a citywide parking study. It's not going to be until 2023. So we kind of said, well, that's great. We don't want to wait till 2023 to do a study, but I do want to move on because we've got a lot of other things to cover. So, ma'am, did you have something you wanted to share with the group, or did we cover it all?
Yes.
It sucks. Okay, well, that sums it up. So, again, I know it's a challenge. Okay, I really do. We do want to kind of move on, and I did address the Starbucks, right?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh.
I just came in. I know I was a little delayed, but it says ID problems, Central and Hillsborough. So did you talk about another turning signal maybe at that intersection? I know we just put in the one, so no. Different topic. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and this is going to be the last comment. We're going to move on.
I'm sorry, Brian, with Historic Woodwork. I've been in Seminole Heights for almost 40 years. We all know what the problem is. What we want to know is what can be done about it. And do you foresee in years to come the problem of parking resolving itself with the implementation of public transportation, people using Uber, buses, streetcars?
Giving you a second to think about that.
Just quickly, the businesses, that will not fall under parking. That's actually a code violation. So if we go, let's say the mechanic putting 3 cars out there, we would actually be issuing citations to the owners of the vehicle that's not even there and not the actual business itself. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, well, let's maybe a better relationship between parking and code enforcement as city departments is something that can come out of this.
Correct. So I can take that to the code enforcement manager. As far as your point, yes. So going back to if people are, they don't care about the citations, there's not much that we can do because we can only come out, issue the $30 citation. And if they just want to park there and go to the restaurant, they'll continue doing that. We will be, thinking of different solutions and, what we can do just to, help the situation. But I just want to be clear that we can come out, issue citations. If people don't care about the citations, there's not much more that we can do from a parking enforcement standpoint. But to your point, yes, we do like this Tico streetcar extension. That will help a lot. So that way people can actually park in surface lot, take the streetcar over to the restaurant and different things like that. So I know, you're in a hurry. We'll have to come up with other solutions and bring different ideas and brainstorm for the community in general.
Let me just ask, since there's a number of residents on Swanee, that seems to be the worst place. If the city would be willing to give you resident parking stickers, you're shaking your head positively that would be at least a quick temporary solution and possibly? You all need to go back and find out whether we can even do it.
Yeah, the residential parking program, it is a process. So we have to do a parking study. We have to take it in front of city council, because basically what we're saying is the right of way, which is public access, no one else can park there except the residents on that street. It does require city council's approval on that. But again, same thing. We have areas that we have it and people still don't care. They just park there, get the $30 citation and move on.
And be sure they know that there are residents on the street that have no other parking option. They do not have driveways or garages.
And that's typically when we do institute the program to, provide an area where the residents can actually, park.
Something like that, though, it's like 2 years, 3 years.
6 months to a year. It all depends on, transportation's bike load.
Photo right here, I can see that there's a car on the right-hand side. My photo, that's an employee, like one of the chefs at Sea House. He parks there every single day. Well, why should he get to park there for 12 hours? He's blocking, Doug Durant's house. So,
I got you.
yeah.
Like I said, we'll have to get together and come up with some solutions.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you coming out tonight. Again, I know that the goal is not to try to come up with solutions, but really just to make sure you're heard, right? We did ask for a study. Again, the initial response was 2023, not acceptable. That's why Fed came out. So again, sir, thank you for coming out.
We'll be in touch by next week for sure.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you, everybody.
We have a number of all for transportation slides. I'm going to have you zip through, but do you want? Okay.
Sounds.
Yep, go ahead.
Hello. Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Hudson. I live down in Tampa Heights, and I'm one of the co-founders of a group called All for Transportation. And I had some slides, but that item just now is actually probably the perfect introduction. We, in too many of the neighborhoods in the city, and really throughout the county, we have a lot of cars. Too many cars, probably too many people. And that's because this county has grown at a crazy rate. And for too long, we really didn't fund transportation adequately because we've never really had a good local sales tax match for transportation dollars. We've never had a meaningful opportunity to get back from Washington, D.C., back from Tallahassee, all the sales tax dollars that you send to your capitals on a daily basis. So in 2018, there were a group of folks that I was fortunate to be a part of, got very frustrated by that, put a ballot measure on the November 2018 ballot to raise a 1 cent sales tax for transportation. That passed. It's 2022, and I'm still here talking about it. So you know that something didn't go right in the meantime. A lawsuit was filed. It was overturned. I'm going to spare you guys the kind of the history of all that, but just say it is going back on the ballot. And that's thanks to, among other people, Commissioner Overman. One of the big things that we didn't have in 2018 and why there was a citizen initiated charter amendment to raise taxes, that's never really happened in the state of Florida before, is because there wasn't adequate political will among the county commissioners. There were 3 people who supported it. Now we have 5. And that makes a huge difference going into what's going to be a tough election. So I want to talk just very briefly. Folks might have questions. I'm happy to answer them about why this really matters. The first reason why voting for this matters is because it is far more expensive to vote no than to vote yes. Infrastructure crumbles. It's kind of like what Mark Twain said about bankruptcy. It happens slowly at first, then all of a sudden. That's what happens with infrastructure. Infrastructure, your streets and your sidewalks don't crumble at a nice even rate. Things can get bad pretty quickly. And we have, I think, $17 billion backlog. So we have a $17 billion backlog, which that's kind of that's an unfathomable number. And the backlog of transportation projects we need to spend money on is getting longer as more people come to this community. So it's something that absolutely it's not really a choice. And then that's when we talk about folks who oppose it. This is, to be candid, is sort of like talking to the Flat Earth Society, because there is no option but to vote for this. We simply have no choice about the way our infrastructure is now and how it's going to get worse if we don't do something. So that's one. 2, as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of money that's sitting on the sidelines that you already pay. You send it to Washington, you send it to Tallahassee, and we don't get it back because FDOT, the U.S. Department of Transportation, require a local match It's really to pay for the operations and maintenance. The federal and the state government will often pay for the big capital expenditure, but they say, look, Tampa, Hillsborough County, you're on your own when it comes to run this. That's what something like All for Transportation, that funding can so critically provide. It's also a really balanced plan in that I think everybody gets a little bit of something out of it. Everyone's pretty happy with it. There aren't any drastic winners and losers. The balance of funding is split up where 54.5% goes to the county and the 3 cities that are in Hillsborough County, split up by population. 45% goes to HART for public transit, which is the only opportunity we have to get so that not every person drives themselves in a single occupancy vehicle to the restaurants in your neighborhood. And the last 0.5% is the smallest, but I think it's actually one of the most important, because what that 0.5 cent is going to fund is it's going to go to the TPO, the Transportation Planning Organization. And unlike the 2018 effort, this 2022 effort, there's actually hardwired into the ordinance some language about working with the Planning Commission, thanks to Mr. Overman, to fund neighborhood plans. Now, Seminole Heights has always been a leader on that. I'm a real estate zoning attorney. So Seminole Heights, you guys have your own zoning code, but there's always room for opportunities for how old Seminole Heights fits, because you have unique issues compared to Tampa Heights. They're more similar than you guys in Brandon, but they're still different. Having the funding, 0.5% of a sales tax goes a very long way. That funds a lot of community plans, as like Josh can attest. That's a critical element of this, because land use and transportation are inextricably tied together. And that's an opportunity that this 2022 campaign, I think, is going to have to tell that story in a more kind of cohesive way than candidly we did in 2018. So in terms of what you can do about it, number one, please vote for it. It's going to be on the November ballot. It's going to be at the end of what's probably going to be a fairly long ballot. So please vote for it. We are going to raise money for a private campaign to get the message out, but it is not as easy to do this a second time. So social media is a blessing and a curse. Anything you can get out, we will have. You can follow us or like us at All for Transportation. We will be getting messaging out that, if you all can amplify, would be a huge help. And finally, to the extent that you guys have ideas about how, if you support the campaign, how we can do a better job getting that message out in a sort of an organic grassroots way, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. This started really as a citizen-based effort. That's what it's going to be. And now it's been able to join forces with the actual power of the county government and elected officials, which I think is going to make for a successful effort in 2022 without the lawsuits this time. So happy to answer any questions you guys have. Yes.
The 54% is for the cities that is not for transit. Does that mean it's 54% that goes to roads?
Yes, ma'am. It goes to, we'll call it surface transportation. And within that 54.5%, it's further broken down. So for example, there's one slide that's pretty good about this, that 12% of that is going to go to bike pedestrian safety improvements. That will make Hillsborough County one of the largest spenders on bike transportation infrastructure in the entire country. More than the cities that you see when you're reading Curbed, or sort of the type of urbanist development that Josh could paint all over this city and this county is impossible without better bike ped infrastructure, without public transit. So it's not just for road widening. Can it go to that in some places? Yeah, because some neighborhoods need it. Again, I live in Tampa Heights, just down the street. We don't really want more roads at all, much less wider ones. But you go out to parts of the county that Commissioner Overman represents, Ball, places like that. They do need some wider roads there. But the balance of the plan is what allows for the local governments to have the options to do what's best suited for them. And you all, by talking to your elected officials, that's how they're going to know what's best for the community, because it's what they hear.
So, but it's entirely separate from any freeway widening, or kind of some of these?
No, I don't believe any of the funding could be used for freeway. There's a specific prohibition on, you can't spend it on anything illegal, which lawyers always want to say things that aren't necessary. 2, you can't spend it on a baseball stadium. Also not allowed anyways, but you can't do it. You can't spend it on interstate, I believe it's capacity or lane widening, but it's awful clear in there.
You can't spend it on the interstate capacity or
you can't spend it on interstates. You can spend it on county roads. You cannot spend it on a state or a federal highway.
Yeah, I don't see how they could spend on interstates. It's not their roads. Yeah.
I know where you're going with that.
I'm just going to make
No. There's a lot of confusion right now. It did go in front of the county commissioners for first reading. It actually was voted on. That was a big surprise for a lot of people. We thought there was going to be a second reading, a lot of public input. there was about 45 people that showed up.
58.
I'm sorry, 58 showed up, and about half were for it and half were against it. But there was one specific call out, which I know you're trying to answer. Why don't we?
I can answer the question.
Well, I want to keep moving because I don't know exactly where it's going to lie. But let's. You asked Parrish about. This is kind of unrelated to this, but it sort of is related to this. I know where you live, and trying to get south on Central Avenue during rush hour without a left turn lane onto Hillsborough to get on the interstate, or to go further east on Hillsborough, sometimes it's impossible. This isn't going to specifically target that light, but if we do get better transit and less people on the road in a single car, it all kind of works together, right? And we all know that FDOT's primary concern is keeping the interstate flowing, which is why the lights surrounding the interstate are timed or set up the way they are. We've been asking for many years to fix that. But that's sort of a long-winded way of saying it all kind of ties together. Are there any other specific questions that can be answered at this point about the All for Transportation? And it actually has a different name, right?
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Brian, did you have a question?
Did I hear you mention Heartland?
Yes, sir. So HART would receive 45% of the surtax proceeds.
I've been to other cities, and public transportation is a much more cheerful experience. Can't you do something to pull people in from the private sector to take away some of the drabness of the experience? For instance, you could put a restaurant on a bus, call it something like Rapido Burrito.
It's a great name.
Pastries in the morning and happy hour in the evening. Can't you do something to make people want to use public transportation?
It's extremely hard to move people with the inadequate infrastructure that we have. But the things we have to use things like advertising revenue, which is pretty anemic and not significant. And that's why you see pictures of lawyers gliding by you as you're driving down the street. There are going to be opportunities with this funding to transform public transit in Tampa. And without it, there's no opportunity to do that.
Sometimes the answer isn't always apparent. Can't you let some people from the private sector contribute? Why don't you contact Uber and see what they have to say about our buses?
Well, we really need large vehicles. This isn't a very common metric, I think, in transit world. And I don't know much about the kind of details of transit, but you think of like the ratio between the people to wheels. How many wheels are going to move how many people? We need more buses that can move a material number of people between the places where they live and they work. And we know where those areas are. And we need a lot more of those. And we have to hire people to drive the buses. That's a huge problem that we have at HART is retention.
Stop calling them buses and call them something else.
Yeah, we'll think about everything. Yep. Stop.
The hard subject, bus stops, because the bus stops are uninviting, abysmal. They, I don't know like being at any temple.
Sure. They're abysmal if they exist at all. There's two things on that. The first is if you have lower frequency routes where someone might actually be sitting for 30, 45 minutes, then those are the places we need to focus on. But, and I mean, I lived in DC for 7 years, took the bus a lot. If the bus comes so quickly that you're only going to be there max 5 to 10 minutes, it doesn't even matter how nice the shelter is. Not to say we don't have to have shelters and have comfortable accommodation in places, but that mindset of we need to have really nice, homey shelters because I'm going to be here for 45 minutes an hour. That's the problem. The problem is the mindset that you have to stay in a shelter for 45 minutes because it takes that long for the bus to get there. That's what that funding will change. And that can change fast when this gets approved. Yes.
Mine's not so much a question, but if this passes, this is likely going to be the funding that the Green Artery has needed to get off the ground for years and years. It's been
no
ready.
Question.
We have a shovel-ready section of it is ready to go, and if we pass this, it'll likely get started.
And you bring up a great point there. That in terms of fighting back with myths on social media. I think there's probably a notion that, well, this is so much more money than the government can spend. Like, are there even any projects? Yes, there are a hell of a lot of projects. HART in weeks could transform. If we could hire enough people, could restore a lot of the route cuts that were done, increase service frequency. You can do that quickly. Green artery. I mean, just fixing potholes and sidewalks. I mean, there are horror stories. It's worse in parts of the county than the city, of kids just walking, to school and on highway shoulders. My mother-in-law uses a walker and walking around Tampa Heights. I mean, you're going over the historic cartouches embedded in the sidewalk. You look down and boom, there's a power pole right in front of you. That's not how an urban community should work.
In order to take cars off the road.
Yeah.
I think
This can do a lot.
It's also really important to recognize that HART's level of funding currently projected out hits a fiscal cliff in 26 or 27, which means we won't have transit at all if we don't figure out a way to fund it. They were on the verge of not being able to make payroll just before they got the CARES dollars and the ARP dollars, because they had eaten up all the reserves that they had been able to acquire before they cut the routes. So this is a really important decision to make when it comes to funding transportation, because if we want a transit agency, this is what's going to help us get this.
All right. How about a round of applause?
Josh. A round of applause for Josh.
I just have a short comment to make, and I think it's really important, both for the campaign and for everybody here to recognize. The amount of cost per person to own a car in Tampa is higher than anywhere else, almost anywhere else in the country. When you factor in car prices, the amount of car insurance coverage that we're required to have, and the higher car insurance rates because we have so many cars and more accidents, it ends up being about a third of a person's expenses every year. So when you compare that to a sales tax that is pretty minor, it's 1% additional where we are now, the cost difference is drastic, not just for us in the room, but for folks who can't afford to have a car issue or to have a lapse in insurance because they rely on that to get to work. So that is how something like this impacts. To have your kids in daycare during the day, it impacts every aspect of daily life. And so when you think about it on those terms, I think that's something that's really important to all of us. So that's just what I was going to say. Amen.
All right. Thank you very much for coming out. We'll continue to have the All for Transportation folks come out, and you're going to hear a lot about this, obviously, heading into November. Commissioner Gwen Myers was the one that put together the initiative in the first place. Obviously, this round, there were a bunch of other commissioners and grassroots effort, include Power and his partner, to get this on the ballot in the first place. If anybody wants to look at these slides, let me know afterwards. I can email them to you. There was a lot of content that we just don't have time. We could spend an hour and a half just talking about this topic. Can you go to the next slide? That's fine. Okay, so next up, I'm gonna just blast through this. HART, and Myron Griffin, stick your hand up in the air. So Myron's the godfather of this concept. Next slide. So HART stands for East Hillsborough Avenue Renaissance Project. I'm going to steal your thunder if you don't mind. And I'm just going to go through this very quickly. You see all the colors there? Is that what you see when you drive down Hillsborough Avenue? When you start at the other end where it connects to Memorial, and then you drive all the way out to 56th Street. What you see are shades of gray, right? 50 shades of gray. What we want are color. Next slide. So this is kind of what you see, right? It's gray, 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 maybe a little bit of yellow. Next slide. When we could have something like this, why don't we have this? Landscape, color. What we have instead is sort of a death trap. If you're in an apartment complex and you're trying to get across 6-8 lanes of Hillsborough Avenue, and we all know how fast people drive, we don't have the beacon flashers, although we are starting to get them. How many people have been up and down Florida Avenue lately? They're starting to come in, right? We're getting one put in at Idlewild, right there where the traffic problem is with all the restaurants, but we've had people hit there multiple times in the last 5 years. So beacon flashers are coming. That's because this neighborhood's been screaming about it. And now with Myron's help, we're going to start working on Hillsborough. Next slide. How about some art on Hillsborough Avenue? I mean, if we had things like this, people would slow down and they would actually look at it, or they may stop and take a picture. I don't know if we want people stopping, but we've got wonderful things like Irwin Tech out there at 22nd Street. I took a class there a number of years ago. It's gray. It's horrible. Okay. How many remember that used to be a Sears building? Next slide.
Designed by a famous architect.
Designed by a famous architect. I mean, this is not the best picture of it. It's actually back here with the up and down roof. I know you all have driven by it, but it's gray. It's ugly.
But if you could picture some kind of iconic heart up on top of the roof there, that is a really focal spot where people would be stopped and they might see some of these iconic pieces of art that we're trying to enlist local artists to do.
Yeah, and we do have wonderful artists in the neighborhood that we could either help fund or get a grant from the county. You're going to see a few things that OSHNA has done recently by getting many grants from the county. Next slide. Okay, so where Myron needs help, he's a man of one. He does have Mauricio Rosas, who is on the OSHNA. He's one of the committee chairs. He runs the highways and byways along with Doug Jessup, who's primarily focused on highways. In fact, he's at a meeting right now representing OSHNA down in Tampa Heights. That's the problem. There are too many meetings and we're getting spread too thin. So if you're interested in things like that, or you're interested in the green artery, if you don't know what the green artery is, literally it goes all the way around the city. It's a greenway. It's a safe place to walk and bike. This has been on the map for a long, long time. We just haven't had the money. Now you know where the money is coming from, the All for Transportation 1%. As Myron said, it's shovel ready. They've done pieces of it. We just need to finish it. The Riverwalk is a good example. Just imagine if we had that around the entire city, how fabulous that would be for people to exercise, bike, or maybe commute to a job. So where we need help, and I put Mauricio's phone number up there. I'm going to leave this up there for a second. Grab your phone and take a picture. If you can cover one meeting to help these two guys out, then we could have a voice, right? So Doug would be here tonight, except that he's down in Tampa Heights. He's working with Rick Fernandez in their battle with FDOT with the intrusion of the sound walls into that historic neighborhood. And we're next. I work across the street every single day. I hear the pile driver now, ding, 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 all day long as they're preparing to put up the sound walls. We're going to have sound walls all up and down I-275. Sounds good. Maybe it is good. The question is where is the sound wall going to be? Is it going to be right up against the highway, or is it going to be intentionally a little bit away from the highway so that another lane can be added? That's the fight that's going on right now in Tampa Heights, and that's why Doug's down there. So if you can help out Mauricio, if you can help out Myron, that would be awesome. Here's a couple examples of events that are going on. Myron's been going around doing the E-HARP. Again, E stands for East Hillsborough. He originally bit off too much. He was going to do all of Hillsborough, right? So I said, hey, maybe E-HARP, West HARP, W-HARP. So he's going to start I-275 going east. Let's get that going. The green artery presentations, I've seen him give that several times. I encouraged him to go to FAN. He did. They loved it. He's gone back. The tip, that's probably the biggest thing. How many people have been to a tip meeting in the past? Josh has. I know Doreen's been around. Oh my God, those things. What is the tip? It is the 5-year plan. If it's not on the tip, it's not going to happen. We don't have a toll road on I-275 from the downtown interchange north because people in this room showed up at the tip a few years ago and sat there and said, take it off the tip. And it did. It got removed. The county commissioners listened to us. It came off the tip. When the highway lane gets added, which is happening right now, it won't be a toll lane. There are going to be toll lanes coming soon. So get ready for that on other sections of the interstate. But we need you involved. So again, if you can help out Mauricio, if you can help out Myron, we can really make some progress.
Tim, can I just?
Yeah, and go ahead.
Whether you realize it or not, half of Old Seminole Heights is in East Tampa, because the dividing line is Florida Avenue. So that is the beginning of East Tampa. And I think you'll all agree that East Hillsborough Avenue is the pits. Everybody knows it. Nothing's been done about it for years. And finally, I think that we've got a consensus on the city council that something needs to be done. Councilman Googe referred to it as a dump, and that's kind of what inspired me to start the HART project. We do have FDOT listening to us. We're having frequent meetings with FDOT. They are willing, according to them, they are willing to make East Hillsborough Avenue a more complete street, more landscaping. We're trying to get art out there, trying to add color to it because it is a dreary experience. And FDOT says it looks that way, not because of what FDOT is willing to do. It's what the politicians have asked for and done. So it is important that we show up to the meetings and express our concern to make East Hillsborough Avenue a more livable and complete street. Thank you. Anybody that can help, we're having a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work, a lot of meetings to go to. Thanks, Sam.
Okay. So at this point, we're going to transition to the home tour. I'm a little disappointed everybody didn't wear their home tour shirt and then spill dinner on it like I did, and then have to go in, use the hairdryer to dry it literally an hour ago. Hopefully you don't see that. Thank you again. If you were a homeowner, if you were on the committee, it's about a 6-month project. We had a terrific turnout. We had just a little bit over 500 people show up, go on the tour, which is outstanding considering we had heavy rain on Saturday. And I know some of the homeowners are smirking because we all traipsed through their houses on Saturday during we call it the dry run. And it wasn't dry at all. It was pouring rain. In fact, we gave up on house number 5. I think we didn't even do the rest of the houses. But it was a huge success. Sunday, the sun came out, and you're going to get to see some of the results here. So I didn't get all the pictures in, and I get to sit here and just say thank you over and over again. Beth, thank you for you and Thias for taking a lot of these great pictures. Here's the garden center. The city was kind enough to give us the garden center for free. Normally they charge, so that's pretty awesome. That's the basement of the church. Obviously, on the sanctuary level, is Candace here? You want to pop up here for 1 second? So Candace is representing Pastor Willits from the church. She was not able to attend tonight, and we do have a very small gift. And Martha, if you want to help, so this is for the church to put up. It'll probably end up in Pastor Willits' office. How many people realize it's the 100th anniversary of the church? So, I mean, that's awesome, right? I don't think there's anybody in the room that's 100 years old. So think about the fact that, that was 100 years ago. And if you read the brochure, the church actually used to meet across diagonally Central Avenue in like a tent, right? So it was rough going back then, right? And those people came together, and it's a fantastic church. And thanks for letting us share it with you during the home tour. I know some of the homeowners were not able to make it, but just a quick retrospective look back. So the bike crew, I don't know if anybody from the bike crew is here, but they did a great job making sure the bikers were safe. TPD showed up. We tried scooters. Sorry, Doreen was on the bike crew. That's correct. Margaret obviously is the main person. She puts together a safe route. She goes out, she chalk paints the road. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. I mean, if you're not a biker, you wouldn't even know that, right? That there's literally a completely separate route that the bikers take from the people that are driving. For all the people that worked in the garden center, getting people through quickly and efficiently, Peggy did a terrific job organizing that. It went very, very well. Next slide. So houses 1 through 4. Parrish, if you want to come on up. If she's here. She's looking at me like.
She didn't.
Will's not. No. And Ashley and Lee, I don't think you guys are here. Joe is not here. So some of these homeowners obviously had other obligations. So what Parish received is one of these. And I do want to mention, these are put together by Sun Frames for free. So if you haven't been to Sun Frames, he's over on Nebraska Avenue, literally like right over there on Nebraska Avenue next to the Old Heights Bistro. So huge thanks to Kurt for putting these together. And how was your experience as house number one?
I told everybody by 3 o'clock. It's not as hot.
And I remember you were under the weather. So here's another funny story, right? So it's Friday night, home tour is Sunday. I get a phone call. No, I'm sorry. I got a text from your husband. And he's like, oh, we got COVID in the house. I'm like, what? So you were just sick. So a couple hours later, after she went off and got a quick rapid test, he wrote back and he said, no, it's just a 2019 cold. I hadn't heard that put that way before, but that was pretty funny. I was like, oh, thank goodness, right? Because having house number one not on the tour would have been a problem. Thank you again. Do you guys want to come on up? So Jim and Wynn, and they're all unique. Each one of these, so we have to make sure we grab the right one.
Yeah. I'm getting the right one. That's the one for these guys.
Yep. So if you want to. So the interesting thing, and I didn't know this until I picked these up today at 4 o'clock, because guess who else got COVID? Kurt. So last week I went to pick these up and it was closed. The sign said, I've got COVID, come back later. I was like, are you serious? So when I picked these up today, literally it was actually about 4:30. I was like, I didn't even see them because every frame is different. So he took the time to customize it to sort of match the house. And so there's a lot of love put into these. So I hope you guys enjoy putting this up in your house, showing it off. And for those who maybe have been in the neighborhood for a long time and have bought a house or two, sometimes you're not the owner anymore. Somebody else will come in and they'll have that hanging on the wall, which is kind of cool. So thank you again, guys. Appreciate it. I know David and Michelle are here. Going to kind of go out of order. Mayla, you're not here, are you? Front porch? No? Okay. Michelle and David and Tim, why don't you come on up as well?
That's Michelle and David.
Okay. So they are actually, crazy enough, they've been on the home tour how many times? Just twice? Just twice. Some people don't ever want to be on the home tour even once. So I went over to Michelle and David's house with Lynn, actually, and we were standing there, knock, 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 and I'm like looking through the window, right? Kind of creepy. And I didn't think anybody was home, but guess what? You guys were home, and you had to convince your wife to say yes. And I really didn't think we were going to get a yes. And then all of a sudden he calls me and he says, hey, we want to be on the home tour. I was like, oh my goodness. Sometimes getting the houses can be a bit challenged. So I hope you guys hang this. Do you have one of these from the very first time? Was it framed the same way?
Not the same way, no. It was in black and white.
It was in black and white. Okay. Well, that was a long time ago. No, I'm just kidding.
That was back in the 20s.
Back in the 20s. So this was house number 7. That was the other funny thing that happened. I dropped off house number 8 at their house, the sign. And I got back.
I was telling you.
And you kept saying, no, we're lucky number 7. I'm like, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I got home midnight. I woke up and I'm like, I got the numbers all mixed up. So I had to drive around the neighborhood and figure it out. Trust me, it gets a little stressful. But again, thank you very much for sharing your house. It was fantastic. There's a picture. Just 1 second there. Right in the middle there, you can see there one of the rooms, and then of course the swing on the front. And I apologize, we didn't get pictures of every house, or we may have them, and I just didn't get a chance to put them together. But again, thanks for sharing your home with us. And then, no, go ahead. And then Tim and Lynn, I don't know that I had a picture of your house. How many people know the Pink House though on Tampa Street? That's where they, yes. So that's their house. Obviously Tim's here. Lynn is actually working, I think, right now, right?
No.
Oh, she's on vacation.
She's in
Europe, right?
I wouldn't call it a vacation.
She's out of the country?
She's out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Out of
I mean, it's not business, but I wouldn't call it a vacation.
Okay. Okay. Well, again, Tim and Lynn opened up house number 6. You had house 6, right? Yes, you are house number 6.
Oh, yeah, 6. Yeah.
It's on the frame. Thanks. The only reason I know that is because we just did number 7, so we're going backwards. And then how many people know what that house is in the upper right corner? Because I didn't, and I never would have figured it out. It was the 5th house, the front porch. So obviously the upper porch was removed, and that's from the 20s. So we got that photograph from a relative. We took it over to PostNet on Florida Avenue, a little plug for them because they did do a lot of good work for us. We had them clean up the photo, and we'll make sure we get this over to the front porch because they're going to hang it in the foyer there right by the bar, the inside bar. So that's representing house or stop number 5.
Right.
So that was the original building for the front porch. And that was the original family that built it. Pretty neat. Are there any other homeowners here that we missed? Okay. Okay, well, if anybody's... Hold on.
Tim, I did want to say something because Lynn isn't here, and that she did speak with members of the board, but there were a lot of people who are volunteered with the home tour and that she was able to work with. And as you now know, it was a very, very busy time for us. Not just her being co-chair of the home tour, but us being on the home tour and then going through the process with city council. If she were here, she would thank all of you who helped and contributed to that, because it really meant a lot to her. It meant a lot to us that you guys were able to make that so smooth for us as people who are hosting our home on the home tour. So thank you to everybody who volunteered. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hang on. Oh, there we go. That was easy. Okay, and then big wrap up was at the new restaurant, Flocal or Flocal. I still don't know how to pronounce it. This is just a small contingent that was right there by the front door. We had the room on the other side of the Ninja Turtle, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. That room was completely filled, and we ended up here as well as outside. So we probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 people wearing this shirt. Don't forget to support these folks on the back of the shirt. We did have some terrific sponsors. So again, in addition to Kurt over at Sun Frames, Cadence Bank, Tampa Bay Federal Credit Union, I'm not going to go through them all. That really made the tour a huge success. Yes. The Sea House was not a sponsor. Maybe we'll go talk to the Sea House about parking as well as being a sponsor. And then the other thing, Susan Morgan, if you want to come on up, one of the things that we do every year is we pick I got to stand over here. I can't get too close to that speaker. So one of the things that the committee, the home tour committee, gets to choose every year is a organization in the neighborhood that's making a difference. So I met Susan a number of years ago. She works at Gracepoint, which is out at 22nd Street. But there's also another lesser known entity or component of Gracepoint called the Coffee Shop, and they're located at Hanna and Nebraska. So as a group, we kicked around a number of different entities in the neighborhood, and we always pick one, sometimes two, and we give them a donation. So on behalf of Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association, we're going to donate $1,500 from the proceeds of the tour to your group to help support the coffee shop. So.
Okay.
Sure, of course. You know, sometimes people say, well, you don't have a name on the building. It's known by the homeless as a shop, but technically it's a coffee shop. It has been in existence over 30 years. It started off in downtown Tampa and then relocated, gosh, I'm going to say probably 20 years ago, right there. It's right down the catty corner to the Publix. Right there. So basically it's the coffee shop, and coffee is a bait on the hook to bring homeless individuals in or people that are housing insecure. And the goal is to let them have a cup of coffee. We get to know their name, what their story is, and how we can help them on their journey to exit homelessness. So as a part of the coffee shop, it's kind of designed in 3 phases. So the first phase is the actual coffee shop. There's coffee there, sometimes pastries or whatever donations we get in. They can take showers. There's toiletry items. There's computers. They can log into emails. We have mindfulness moments. There is one day in particular, this is before COVID, that I absolutely loved. There was a chess match. And they were like throwing down, talking smack to each other. And I thought, how beautiful is this? That people misjudge sometimes homeless individuals, that they're all mentally ill, they don't have purpose, they're not intelligent. But you would be amazed at the people that sometimes find themselves in a pit and they just don't know how to find their way out. We have a part of Gracepoint is we have primary health care. A lot of people don't realize that. It's open to anybody needing primary health care. We have 2 locations. One is Seminole Heights and the other one right near Advent Health Medical Arts Building there on 30th Street, the old University Hospital. Date myself as a Tampanian here. But what's nice is that we can offer health care and health insurance to individuals that don't have easy access to that, whether that's mental health treatment or just getting, checked for high blood pressure and getting somebody to, so it's basically treating people with dignity. So the next phase is case management, and that's where we hope we build that relationship. We can help with IDs. We are authorized by the post office as a mailing address. So you can't get benefits if you don't have a mailing address. But the only way you can use that location for a mailing address, you have to be engaged in services, because our goal is to, again, get folks on their journey, wherever that is, but off the streets of Tampa. And then the third bay is affordable and supportive housing. And we have affordable housing in over 5 counties. And so we are beyond thrilled to be in Seminole Heights. We try and be a good neighbor. Because of COVID, we had to change things up. Prior to COVID, we averaged 75 people a day that visited the coffee shop. And that does not include those that come to case management. As COVID has come and is still with us, we've had to change things a little bit. So in the mornings, as much as we've tried to create a system, you will see sometimes people lining up outside because we can only have so many people in at a time. But we do try and be a good neighbor. We encourage people not to throw trash. We've chosen, we are not a feeding site. We do not offer meals. We will have snacks there. And we do that intentionally because people will take food and then they will dispose of those containers along the way. Trinity Cafe, those of you in Tampa Heights have known that. So on the weekends, we do not encourage people to stay there, loiter there. We've asked TPD to come by and ask people kindly to move on so they're not staying there. We do sometimes have, they're not authorized by us, but they will come and provide meals. And we have kindly asked them not to do that because, again, we want to be a good neighbor. So part of this donation, we are hoping, I've been wanting for years to do some type of mural outside on our building. So hopefully this will go towards that and we can do something that will continue to contribute to this wonderful neighborhood association. I am a big fan of the East Hillsborough Avenue project, and just want to let you know on behalf of Gracepoint, you need copies, you need any support like that, we will help you in any way possible. Gracepoint actually hires some of the homeless individuals to go up and down 22nd Street and Hillsborough Avenue to pick up trash. It's a way to help them have some type of livelihood. We pay them a minimum wage, but it's also to clean up our neighborhood. And we're working with Irwin to try to work on their property. It's one thing if it's not beautiful and gray, but we don't have to have tires sitting outside and a dumpster right there on 22nd Street. So we're just proud to be in the neighborhood. So again, on behalf of Gracepoint, thank you so much for your graciousness and this wonderful contribution. And thank you so much.
I want to get to questions in a minute. So that one we found out you can't deposit. So this is the actual check. So
Wasn't bit with the slide.
yeah, somebody tried to shove it in an ATM. It doesn't work. Couple quick questions about the coffee shop, Byron, and I'll get you in just a second.
I'm still unclear as to where it is. It's like north of Hannah, next to the garage?
Yes.
Okay. all right.
And right across the street is a tile shop.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's
You should put a sign on it, but I had no idea.
it's a nondescript building.
Put a sign.
We put coffee, we were gonna put the sign at a coffee shop and some of the neighbors got so excited that they could come in for a latte. And we're like, we're not that type of coffee shop.
And the hours are very early in the morning, right? It's
So 7:30 to 1, but then our case management continues until 4 o'clock.
yeah, and if you start to look at the programs that are all throughout Tampa, let alone Tampa Bay, there's an entity called findhelp.org. So if you run into somebody and you get into a conversation and you don't know what to do, I usually call Susan, and then she sometimes answers because she always gets me straight. But there is an organization called findhelp.org. It's zip code based. You put in 33603, 33604, 33610. You would be shocked at how many programs there are. Now, they're not always going to work. I called the other day. I got a gentleman call me back, and it was for the Francis House. You've got to have HIV AIDS to utilize that facility. That's not what I was looking for the individual. So there's a lot to learn if you're interested in working on those kinds of programs. Is there another question over here?
It's 6220 North Nebraska Avenue.
It's catty corner from Publix on the north side of Hannah. Correct.
Pretty far.
Go ahead.
Do you take like donations like toiletries?
We are very open to any toiletry items, clothing. Primarily, we have more men than women, but we don't need ball gowns. Occasionally they come in, we're like, hey, listen, we do not want our homeless walking down the street in ball gowns. Not the look we're going for. But then also we're getting people back into apartments that don't have anything. So anything from blankets to sheets, laundry detergent, we go through a lot of that. In fact, you would be surprised, the number one thing people request at the coffee shop, laundry. And you would say, what's the big deal about laundry? What's really important about that is if you were truly homeless, more on the chronic side, there's so many organizations in town that help homeless. So they don't carry backpacks or anything. They live a very disposable life. We want people to want to contain their belongings and like their things. So the fact that they want to wash them and launder them, to me, is a path that means they're closer for us to being able to get them into permanent housing. So we are expanding our laundry because we just can't keep up with it. And I'll tell you one little interesting tidbit. The old style washers that you open the top, they do a quicker wash. You can do a quick wash for 20 minutes. These new ones with the open in the front, 35 minutes. So you know what? We have to count how many loads we do, but we need the stackable ones to do the capacity. So we're very, again, happy to any donations, or if anybody wants to volunteer, we are open to that as well.
Are your donations during your opening hours? Then?
Only during our opening hours,
Okay.
yes.
Just
Please
walk
do
in
not,
with it?
you can just walk in. I would suggest if you are coming with donations, if you can come through the middle door. But yes, please do not drop anything off after hours. You'll be amazed that people in their kindness want to help us, and they criticize us because I run them off and they think I'm terrible and mean and horrible, that I don't want people coming by and feed the homeless or drop donations. But I'm like, no. Because it's not good for the neighborhood. They just litter and drop things along the way.
Yeah, and for the ladies in the room, that's usually at least half the people, Ladies of the Heights. If you're not part of the Ladies of the Heights Facebook group, they do a fantastic job working together to collect items across the spectrum of needs. So the president of Southeast Seminole Heights, Ellie, is the lead for that. So if you're not plugged in with that group, I've tried to go once and I was told to go the other way. No, it is a ladies focused group, and she'll get 70 or 80 people at some of those events. And a lot of times they're doing fundraisers or collecting donation items. Any other questions?
I'll just put one last thing out. We're doing a coffee shop, what I like to call Refresh. It's, I want to say May 23rd. It's on a Saturday. It's just painting and refreshing the coffee shop. So if anybody wants to come and volunteer, I help us, you want to help.
Okay, we'll get that on our Facebook page.
And we'll figure out a way to do some signage that, we just want to be respectful, because I know Tampa Heights had problems so many years ago with the Salvation Army, Metropolitan Ministries. We don't have all these nonprofits define our neighborhood. So we just wanted to be really mindful of the neighborhood and with that be kind of nondescript. But again, thank you guys so much for
Almost to the end here. I put this up intentionally. Hopefully folks have been reading it. We do have a happy hour coming up. So the Neighborhood Involvement Committee right here, they could use some additional folks to get involved. Lynn was a big supporter of that committee. And of course, she's on to different things now. Highways and Byways, again, another plug from Mauricio and Myron. Green Space and Beautification, Jack was the chair. Jack's got a more expansive job, and so he's needing to step down. Theo Boylan, who I believe is attending this meeting through Zoom, offered to step in. So she's going to take over that committee. But having said that, anybody that wants to get involved, if you send an email right there, we'll get you plugged into the right committee. So if you like to paint, if you like to put plants in the ground, if you want to help work on a mural, like Susan just mentioned, we've got a grant effort underway to paint a seawall on the Hillsborough River. Michael Gwynn, who is out of the state right now, he's working on that effort. So that's sort of under the Green Space and Beautification effort. And again, the happy hour is coming up on May 4th at 7th Sun. Last plug, if we only have a few of these left. So if anybody's interested in a shirt, I've got them here. I've got at least one sale going, 2 sales going. So we only have about 6 or 7 of each of these, men's and women's, different sizes, and we'll be happy to hook you up tonight. And then what we'd like to do is move on to a different design and get that out. We've also talked about doing a pride flag with the Old Seminole Heights, which is currently blue and white. And I've gotten a lot of feedback that while that's our colors, they'd like something else. And I was specifically asked if we could get a pride version of that flag. I think that'd be a terrific option for folks that want that. Any questions for any of the officers that are here or chairs for me? Okay. Myron said he would stay after. We only have about 15 minutes before the library will kick you out, but he's happy to meet folks over here, talk about the Green Artery or the HART project. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening and thanks for coming out.